Our next two artworks come from the square temple at Ashuna. It's not on the map, but it's where the city of Ashuna is where my arrow is pointing on this map, so just north of the Tigris. The two artworks we're going to look at are referred to as votive statues, and they are two of my most favorite artworks. I love talking about these two. What we are looking at here are small statues that were dedicated to the gods and then left at the temple. They have these extremely elaborate, or I shouldn't say elaborate, exaggerated eyes, and we're going to talk more about that. They are dressed like everyday people of Sumer. They function as votive figures. So there's your definition, a votive figure. A votive figure is a gift of gratitude to a deity, symbolizes a wish, a prayer, or a vow. So these figures here were created with the intention of leaving as a gift to a god, and I'm introducing the term votive figure with these statues and the Sumerian world, but I don't want you to limit it to the Sumerians. We're going to be looking at votive figures throughout the rest of the semester. Votive offerings are not exclusively seen in ancient Near East. It's not something that is beginning and ending with the Sumerians. It still happens or still occurs today. It is a pattern of human behavior to give these votive offerings, these gifts of gratitude. The male figure wears the typical Sumerian male costume. He is shirtless with a sheep skin skirt that would have been made of leather, and you can see the tassels here of the sheep hair. He wears his hair in the typical fashion. You can see the texture here is to indicate that his hair is long and curly, and it's painted black. So he's got this lovely black curly beard and hair down to his shoulders. The female figure is dressed in typical female fashion of the Sumerians. She wears a heavy wool gown made of wool, and it comes across, or it comes around her chest and drapes over her shoulder. She has her hair up into some kind of a arrangement at the nape of her neck, and they both are holding these tiny vessels in their hands. These two, while I'm featuring them specifically, they are two of many that were found at the square temple of Eshnuna, and they were all found buried underneath the floor of the temple. The dating of their burial is at the same time in which the temple was destroyed, indicating that these were most likely buried by the priests and priestess of the temple as a way of protecting them from invaders, from looting, from destruction. They vary in size, but you can see that they all have a consistency of their costume, and they all hold in their hands these tiny vessels. They stand upright and they look forward with these extremely large eyes. The tallest of the figures, the one that we were just looking at, he stands at 30 inches tall, so a little over 2.5 feet. They are carved of limestone and alabaster, and then their eyes are inset with gypsum, and they have cuneiform carved onto their base, or sometimes running up the back of their legs. Why? Oh, see there, look at that. He's got his cuneiform there. This woman here looks like there at one time was a smaller figure of a child that was standing next to her. Now we might be asking, why? Why these figures, and why these extremely large eyes? Well, the artist has indicated an understanding of the human figure, but not a real attention to anatomy. It's not that they don't know the proportions of hands to arms to shoulders to heads. It's indicating that the emphasis here is on the eyes and the vessel in which they hold. They serve as votive offerings, and residue of these little cups show that they had placed in them oils or beer or wine or sometimes honey, something sacred, something special. Now you might be thinking, something sacred, something special like beer or honey or oil? Yes, these are difficult things that take a lot of time, a lot of planning for refinement, and they are being given as expensive gifts to the gods. These statues would have been placed within the temple. Now, the process is not that you would have dropped off this at the temple. No, instead, let's say you wanted to give a gift to a god or a goddess. Maybe they had granted you some kind of blessing. And so you would purchase one of these statues, depending on how much money you had and depending on your status within this culture or the civilization. And then you would have a priest write your prayer or your thanks on the statue itself. They would then perform a ritual on this figure and then place it within the temple, therefore allowing the god to view you and your gift and read your prayer, your giving of thanks, without you being in the room and offending them. These are not specific portraits of specific people. These are generalized portraits of people that would have been specified with the cuneiform that would have been scrawled on the bottom or the back of the statue. This figure here, the male statue, he was dedicated to the god Abu, A-B-U. Now, Miss Cortez, you still haven't explained these large eyes. Oh, these large eyes. These large eyes are a symbol of their respect to the god or the goddess. Think about it. Have you heard people say that eyes are the windows to the soul? That to look into somebody's eyes is to bear witness to their inner soul, right? Well, that sense of opening oneself, being vulnerable, is what they are doing here. The exaggeration of their eyes isn't because Sumerians had these freakishly large anime eyes. No, these large eyes are to show that they are open and vulnerable and receptive for whenever the god appears in the temple to receive their gift. Another common argument for these eyes is that they are open in waiting and in reverence, in respect to the god. They don't look away or ignore or miss. And so here, with their specific gift of thanks to that god, they are forever, for all eternity, open, vulnerable, and in respect of this greater force. Keep this idea in mind, the idea of these exaggerated eyes, these open eyes. It is often used in art as a symbol of piety, of opening oneself to the vulnerability of their faith. Do you need to write that down? We're going to see in this class over and over, exaggerated eyes are a symbol of piety, of opening oneself, being vulnerable and respectful to a greater power. And that is what is being indicated here in these adorable votive statues. They hold their gifts of honey or beer or wine, and they are placed in the temple for whenever that god or goddess deems themselves worthy to come down and to receive this gift. It's lovely.